It's shady, it's slimy, it's bogus. What's up, everybody? Welcome back to Mohawk Motors. My name is Jason. This is not my favorite type of video to make, but man, this is happening to people, and I want to get some awareness out there, and maybe we can get this nonsense to stop, because that's what it is. It's nonsense. So I've got here, this is a 2010 Cadillac Escalade. I bought this thing from Copart, and specifically Copart Harrisburg. I found this thing on their online auction. It says it has a clear title, and the auction description listed it as engine start program, which is important to me. I need vehicles with engines that run. And the engine start program at Copart says that the vehicle ran and idled when it reached their facility. Now, I have learned since purchasing this and trying to get a resolution that Copart makes no guarantee that it will ever run again. And they also have no evidence that it actually did run when it got there. Their engine start program is just, it's all it is them saying, yes, it ran and idled when it got here. Absolutely. But that's all you get. There's nothing else. They cannot provide a video. They cannot provide evidence. They can give you no proof whatsoever that this engine ever ran. And if you try to get them to do something about it when it won't run, they just quote that policy right back to you. It started and idled when it got here. We make no guarantees that it will run when you pick it up or any time after that. Now, like I said, I bought this 2010 Cadillac Escalade because we need something bigger to move our family around in, and because it said the engine runs. Well, I was unable to verify that the engine ran at the facility because there was not enough oil in the engine to even register on the dipstick. I'm not making this up. I went to pick it up. I'm fortunate enough that I can go pick the vehicle up myself. I checked the engine oil, and there is not even enough oil in the engine to register on the dipstick. Now, that's a problem. I'm definitely not going to start the thing if there's not enough oil in it to register on the dipstick. So how on earth am I supposed to verify that it runs? Well, you can't. You got to take Copart for their word. Especially if you're like me and you drove 2.5 hours one direction to go get the thing. Unless you just have time to waste. So I took Copart at their word that it would run, that it ran and idled when it got there. I got it home, I filled it with oil, I put a battery in it that was fresh, topped off and charged. And what do I get when I try to start it? Clickety click, click, click. No start situation. I'm going to spare you everything that I've gone through and done to try to get this thing started. But you've been here a while. You know I know my way around GM vehicles. I like to think I'm a pretty good mechanic / technician, and I can typically figure out a no start situation. I've got about 6 hours of diagnostic into this thing, and I cannot get it to crank off the key. And even if I bypass the relay and just manually trigger the starter to crank the engine over, I still can't get it to start and idle. So if this thing was engine started and idled when it reached the Copart Harrisburg facility, what on earth happened between then and now that it won't start and it won't idle anymore? I think Copart lied. I think they misrepresented this vehicle in the online auction. And a large portion of why I think that is because I'm not the first person this has happened to. If you look on Google or the Better Business Bureau public filings, There are dozens, if not hundreds, of reports of Copart misrepresenting the vehicles that they are selling in the online auctions. Misrepresenting by claiming the engine starts and idles when it doesn't. Misrepresenting by claiming that a vehicle runs and drives when it won't do either or both. Misrepresenting the title status of the vehicle. All of those things, right in the Google reviews, right in their Better Business Bureau filings. And now, for the third time in my own real-life experience, a misrepresented vehicle from Copart. I think the part that's most frustrating for me is that it seems to be happening more and more. In my mind, as a business owner and a person who deals with businesses on a regular basis, something like that should be decreasing, should be happening less and less, because people are certainly reporting the problems. People are certainly crying and trying to find assistance through other people, the Better Business Bureau, public outreach, etc., to try to get this resolved. If you're familiar with the Cletus McFarland channel, he just had this happen to him. He purchased a Porsche that they claimed ran and drove. And when he got it back to his shop, found the engine block cracked as well as the transmission housing cracked, both in a way that would make it absolutely impossible for that vehicle to have run and driven. So now I get one also, and all the other dozens, hundreds of people that have tried to get assistance, they're dealing with this too. And what happens to Copart? Copart claims no responsibility. None. They claim that their engine start program states nothing more than that the vehicle started and idled when it reached their facility. And their run and drive program, same thing. States nothing more than that the engine started and the vehicle would move forward and backward under its own power when it reached their facility. I'm not the smartest mechanical mind on the planet, but what I do know of vehicles, particularly engines, if they start and idle and then you put them away, and even by not even put them away, if it starts and idles and then you turn it off and sit it somewhere, it should start and idle again if you provide it with 12 volts and fuel, unless something else has happened to it. So what's happening is, are there little gnomes wandering around in the Copart storage yards at night, sabotaging vehicles to make sure that they never run again, and breaking engine blocks in half to make sure that the person that buys them can't run it, or just draining all the oil out of the bottom of the engine to make sure that you can't start it when you get there? Or is it what seems slightly more likely that Copart is misrepresenting what they're selling? They're saying that things run and idle when they arrive at their facility. Yet, in this modern age, they can't do the simplest bit of self-assurance and make a 20 to 30 second video of that engine running and idling? Apparently not, because I can't get them to provide any evidence that this engine ever ran and idled. And heaven knows, I have exhausted my mechanical and electrical knowledge trying to figure out why this thing won't start. And it won't start. It will not start. It will not run. So unless those little gnomes came and sabotaged this thing while it was sitting in the yard, I'm about 98% sure that it never ran and idled. And Copart just said that it did to boost their profit margins. You can sell a running and driving vehicle for a heck of a lot more than you can for one that doesn't run or drive. Same with an engine. A vehicle with a running engine is worth way more than a vehicle that doesn't run. So I can't imagine why Copart would be motivated to misrepresent the things on their website, especially when it so conveniently happens that the batteries of the vehicles are always dead, the fluids are often low or not present at all, which would make it really, really difficult to verify engine start and idle or run and drive before you leave their yard, which, by the way, once you take the vehicle off their property, their policy is that in doing so, you've accepted the vehicle as is, where is. And they don't seem willing to make exceptions. At least not for us normal folks. And I gotta be honest, you'd think with their exorbitant fees, they could afford to do a little bit more customer service. I mean, I bought this thing for $5,600. That was my winning bid. Again, on the assumption that it actually ran and idled like they said it did, which it doesn't. And then they charged me close to $1,000 in fees on top of that for this vehicle. Man, could they at least keep the sabotaging gnomes out of the yard with some of that money? I mean, maybe then they'd have more happy customers. You guys that have been here for a while, you know I'm typically a pretty positive guy. Like, try to find the good in things, try to stay optimistic, like to be helpful. I definitely don't like to speak poorly of other people or businesses, but I mean, this is absurd. There's like I said, dozens, if not hundreds, of complaints to the Better Business Bureau of this exact thing, of misrepresentation of items in their online auctions. There's hundreds of Google reviews stating misrepresentation of items purchased in online auctions. And yet Copart doesn't do anything to change it. I've been communicating with the location manager, the regional manager, and the corporate headquarters for 2 days trying to get some kind of resolution on this. And all I get is, it's not our problem. You should have left it here if you weren't happy with it. I'll give them that. But at the same time, if I can't trust your word, how can I buy anything from you? I may not be able to start and test drive every vehicle there, especially when you bring them out with flat tires or no oil in the engine. I'm supposed to bring my mobile auto shop to your yard to verify that the vehicle is what you said it is before I take it with me? That's absurd. That's absolutely absurd. If you say it ran and drove when it got to your yard, I should be able to put a battery in it, check the fluids, maybe put a little gas in it, and drive the thing. If you say it started and idled when it got to your yard, I should be able to put a booster on it, dump a little gas in it if it needs it, and start the thing. That's what that means. That doesn't mean it did it when it got here. Sorry if it never does it again. Just don't say anything. Just sell it as is. But we gotta make those profit margins, guys. If we tell people it runs, but it may never run again, that'll boost our sales numbers. Heck yeah, go for it. We don't have to actually back it up, right? I guess more than anything, I'm putting this out here as a warning for you, everybody. A warning about Copart. Take your booster, take engine oil, take transmission fluid, take gas. If it won't do what they said it'll do with those 4 things in their yard, tell them to take it back. Because they are gonna lie and deceive and do whatever they can to boost their profit margins with no regard for their customers or the impact it has on them. And in my opinion, that is not the way to conduct business. There's always a way to take care of your customers and take care of yourself. It may not make everybody happy, but it should at least make everybody feel like the right thing happened. And sometimes that's hard. But businesses operating the way Copart is, it makes me wish I had the resources to put them out of business. Because I hate when businesses, for lack of a better way to say it, intentionally deceive their customers. And that is what I think is happening.
4 to 6 days later.
So it's a different day. I'm here at Copart. I'm picking up another truck. This one also is a Cadillac. And this one was listed as running and driving in the online auction. And I get here, and no surprise there, it's got a flat tire. I'm doing my inspection. It does have engine oil in it. The battery is stone dead, like most of them. And when I check the fuse panel, let me check the fuse panel, I notice right here where the fuel pump relay goes, there's no fuel pump relay in there. And then right above it, right here, where the fuel pump fuse is supposed to be, the 25 amp fuel pump fuse, that's missing also. So yet another example here of, from the time that they list this stuff until the time that they actually have you coming to get it, they deliberately and intentionally make it impossible or as difficult as possible for you to verify that it does what they said it did. So I'm gonna steal the relay out of this thing for the fog lamps, put it in the fuel pump position, put a fuel pump fuse in it, and then see if this thing will start up like they say it does. Hopefully my booster has enough oomph to actually get this thing to crank over and start. It's, at least now I know, if it doesn't crank over and start, I'm just gonna go get them and tell them to take it back off. This is ridiculous. So after jacking around with it for 20 minutes, I've managed to get this thing started. Stole the fuel pump relay. Fortunately, it's the same relay as the fog lamps. So I took the fog lamp relay, put it in the fuel pump spot, took the fuse, fog lamp fuse, put it in the fuel pump fuse, was able to get fuel up to the engine, checked all the fluids, now I've got it started. If Copart is testing this stuff and they're saying on the website that it runs and drives, there's no possible way this thing will run and drive without the fuel pump relay or fuel pump fuse in it. So it's obvious to me that they are intentionally disabling these vehicles. So unless you have the mechanical knowledge to come and look, are all the relays in place, is it get like to do the diagnosis, yet there's no possible way you could confirm if it runs and drives. Not to mention the flat tire. Like, I can't take it off the trailer and drive it around with a flat tire. It didn't have any flat tires in the listing. More times than not, when I have a flat tire, I get it home, I inflate it, and it never goes flat again. So which again tells me they're intentionally making it impossible for you to verify what they say in the online listings. And it's bogus. I mean, they're doing it on purpose so that they can say whatever they want in the online listing, and then you can't confirm before you leave with it. And then once it's out of the yard, it's your problem. And they stick by that tooth and nail. They won't do anything about it once you take it out of here. So you absolutely have got to make sure it does what it says it does before you take it off the property, or it's your problem, they don't care. And for all you know, for all I know, it may say in the online listing, runs and drives, engine runs, whatever, but it may never have run because they can't provide any evidence that it did. And whether it's intentionally disabled by somebody here at the yard or just never ran at all, unless you have the mechanical knowledge and ability to diagnose and get it to run before you leave, you're SOL. It's Copart claims no fault. Hey, we made no guarantees. It's your problem. And that's shady. That's super, super shady.
4 to 6 more days later.
So I'm working on getting this video edited for you guys, and it's been about a week. Yeah, it's been about a week since I picked this Escalade up, and it had this flat tire here, this flat passenger front tire. I put air in it as soon as I got home that day, and wouldn't you know it, still holding air. As you saw, had air in it in all the pictures in their online listing. So how did that tire magically go flat when I was there to pick it up? Did the Copart gnomes come out and let all the air out the night before to make sure that I couldn't verify that this thing ran and drove when I got there to pick it up? Or did one of their staff let the air out of it so that whoever picked it up couldn't verify the run and drive status that they listed it as before they left the yard with it? I'm inclined to believe the latter, that they didn't want me to be able to verify that this thing ran and drove before I took it off the property, thus assuming and taking ownership as is. It's bogus, guys. It's shady, it's slimy, it's bogus. All right, everybody. So I said all of that. I showed you all of that to get to this main point here. And I'm hoping that I can save you the headache and hassle and, in my opinion, dishonest business that I've experienced firsthand, that I've seen hundreds, if not thousands, of other people experiencing with Copart. And that is the run and drive policy and the engine start policy. Now, run and drive, I'm going to paraphrase here, but it basically says when the vehicle arrived at the facility, the engine started, the engine idled, and the vehicle would move under its own power. The engine start policy, paraphrasing, says the engine started, the engine idled when it arrived at the facility. They imply no other guarantee, no other warranty, no evidence, no proof, no nothing. They put that little box, they check it, and they write either it ran and drove or the engine starts. Now, if either of those conditions are important to you, your only protection against their policy is to verify it before you take the vehicle off the property. Both of those policies, the last line states that as soon as you remove that vehicle from the Copart premises, you have, in action, accepted the vehicle as is. Meaning, if you take it off the property, get it to your shop, your house, wherever, and find a connecting rod through the engine block, Copart says that's your problem, not our fault. It ran when it got here. You accepted it as is. You get it to your house and you find that there's no drive shafts in the thing. You've accepted it as is by taking it off the property. Again, Copart will just stick to their story that it ran and drove when it got there. They don't know what happened. They made no guarantee. You took it off the property, so you accepted it as is. The only way you can protect yourself, the only way you can avoid just getting, for lack of a better way to say it, trapped with something that was falsely represented, is to verify it yourself at the time you pick it up. If it's engine start program, take whatever you may need to get the engine started. Gas, oil, fuses, relays, a booster pack, a fresh charge battery, maybe some jumper wires, whatever. But whatever you may possibly need to get that engine started, you got to take it with you. You got to make sure the engine starts before you take it off the property. Because once you leave, it's yours, whether it runs or not. That's Copart's policy. Same with the run and drive stuff. Whatever you may need, make sure you take it with you. Make sure you can blow up tires. Make sure you can get the engine started. Make sure you can fill the transmission with fluid. Bypass cooling lines that may be broken. any of that stuff. The only way you can keep yourself safe from this trap that Copart is setting, and in my experience, intentionally sabotaging vehicles to stick you with things, is to make sure that you can verify it before you take the thing off the property. It's super slimy. It's super shady. It would be one thing if vehicles were just not starting because, you know, the battery had died. But to be going through these things when I get them back and finding fuel pump relays, fuel pump fuses missing from the vehicle altogether, to see stuff that's pictured with 4 fully inflated tires and then get there 2 days later and it's got flat tires, and then to find out after reinflating the tires that they don't leak or have any leaks. Like, it's obvious somebody has attempted to disable this vehicle so you can't start it. Somebody has intentionally flattened the tires so you can't drive it. Like, it's not yard gnomes. There are not Copart gnomes going around and sabotaging vehicles after you purchase them. Copart is intentionally doing this so you cannot verify running condition before you take it off the property. And their little policy here, you've accepted it as is their fallback. It's right there in writing. So you got to protect yourself because they're not going to do anything to help you. So I really hope this saves you from experiencing what I've experienced with Copart. Hopefully this will help you. I mean, there are good deals to be gotten. You just have to make sure that you do your due diligence before you take it off the property, or you also may get stuck with something that isn't what they said it is. Again, they have no evidence that these vehicles ever ran. They have no evidence that these vehicles ever drove. They're not there to help you. They're trying to make as much money as they can with no regard for the customer. So you have to protect yourself. That's it on this one, guys. Again, I hope this helps you. I hope this saves you. Maybe next year there'll be fewer reviews because people have seen this video and not gotten lied to like I have, like Cletus was, like so many other people have been. And, you know, maybe if enough of us actually start sending vehicles back that aren't what they said they are, they'll stop doing shady, slimy stuff. So, thanks a lot for watching. Until the next video, everybody, take care.